How's it going, everyone? I'm Tom with Maverick Designs Woodworking. Welcome back to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome. If you haven't, today I'm going to do a real quick video on how I made my rolling little dust collection cart here. So if you want to see how I did that, then stick around because that's what we're going to do. This thing is fairly inexpensive when you compare it to the cost of a regular dust collector, and we'll talk about some of the pluses and minuses, but it's pretty easy to make, and it'll at least get you in having some kind of dust collection, which is obviously much better than having none. Alright, so obviously this thing is already completely made, so I'm not going to be showing you me cutting the tubes and all that stuff, but I will talk you through how I made this exactly step by step, the sizes of the stuff that I used, the parts, how they went together, all that sort of thing, so that you will be able to make your own one of these after you see this video. As you can see, there's only a few pieces that go into making this. The primary thing being a shop vac. I'm familiar with the Ridgid shop vacs. I think most of the people that I've seen make them with the Ridgid shop vac, and there's a reason for that. Now, if you can find a shop vac that has similar features, then you should be able to do it with that as well, but I'll show you what you need to look for when you are looking at a shop vac in order to make something like this. Alright, so the key thing is that it has these feet on it. These feet that stick out, they need to stick out past the edge of the vacuum so that when you put these legs on there, they will clear the sides of the vacuum. Okay, if the vacuum flares out at all over the tops of the feet, then this is not going to work. Also, the thing with these Ridgid shop vacs is that the feet have these little like nubs on them. I don't know what you call them, but they fit perfectly down inside these tubes when you put them on, which makes it very easy to put together. Okay, now I will tell you that for the longest time, I was thinking about putting some bolts through here to hold these in place, because when you're going over uneven ground, or especially up over a step or down a step or something like that, this thing has a tendency to want to fall apart on you. You saw how easily I took this out, and they fall out just as easy, and it can be kind of frustrating. However, the problem with that is that it would make it a little more difficult to change the filter every time that you want to change it. For me, it's easier just to leave them like this and deal with it when I have to deal with it when they start falling apart. Because when I go to change the filter on these, all I have to do is disconnect this hose, and then I can lift the whole thing up off of the vacuum so that I can clean, change the filter, do whatever I need to do in there, and then pretty easily put it back together. You just have to get all these legs lined up on those little nubs on the feet down there, and drop it back down into place. Okay, so the key thing is, when you're looking for the vacuum, you need those feet. They need to extend out far enough so that the legs will clear the sides of the vacuum, and they need those nubs on there so that you can fit the pipes over them to hold them in place. Otherwise, you have to figure out some other way to attach them. So these are almost perfectly made for this purpose. So I think I'm not the one that came up with this idea, by the way. There's plenty of people out there that made videos on these going back for years and years and years. And, they've also used these types of vacuums. So that's why I picked that one as well. All right, working our way up from the bottom, you're also going to need some PVC pipe. And the way that I did it was I also used a connector. We'll talk about that later. And a cap, which is up here at the top. 4 of those, obviously. Now, the distance is really up to you how far or how tall you want these to be. I wanted it to just clear the top of the vacuum, and that's all I needed. Now, if you want to have it taller, it's going to be less stable and you're going to have more issues. So having it as close down as you can at the bottom gives you more center of gravity, I guess, and you won't have to deal with so many issues with it like falling apart as you're trying to drag it around. But maybe it would make it easier to get to it without taking it apart too. I don't know. This is the way that I made mine. When I tell you, I'll give you the measurements for the way that I did it, and you can do it however you like. And that's also going to depend on your vacuum. So you need to keep that in mind. But besides the PVC, we have some hardware that I'm holding these caps on. Again, we'll get to that later. And then you need a Home Depot bucket and a Dustopper or some other type of cyclone system. I use the Dustopper because it works fine for me. And the Dustopper comes with all of the hose and stuff that you need to make this work in the box with it. You don't have to buy anything additional. Now, you can use the regular... Do I have one? You can use the regular vacuum hose that comes with the vacuum as your intake hose, but you know, it's rigid. It's not, you know, very soft. It's, you know, I don't like them. I got this one from Rockler. I like these because they're kind of accordion-like. They'll retract back to just a few feet, and then I can pull this thing out to, like, I don't know, something like 12, 15 feet, something like that. It's soft. It's pliable. Supple, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know, I just like them, so that's what I'm using here. Now, naturally, in the description below the video, I will leave links to all this stuff for you. I mean, minus the PVC. You're gonna have to go to your local plumbing supply or, you know, big box store to get that stuff. But you know, it's self-explanatory. But all these other things, I'll leave the links in that. I'll leave links in the description below for you for that stuff. All right. The only other piece here that we have, besides, again, the vacuum, the PVC and hardware, the bucket and the Dustopper, and the optional hose if you want. If not, you can use the one that comes with the vacuum again, is I have a piece of MDF. That's what this is. This is just MDF that I cut and painted black. Again, we'll go over the details of how I cut this, but that's all that is. It's pretty old now at this point, but still looks decent for being MDF. You can also use plywood, you can use melamine, you can use whatever you want up here. I think I just had an extra piece of MDF laying around when I made this, so that's what I used. And all of these little accessories are all stuff that came with the vacuum that normally come with these types of shop vacs when you buy them. All right, so what I used to build mine is a 12-gallon Ridgid shop vac. It is a model HD 12000. And they're pretty common at Home Depot. I believe there's a 16-gallon that also has similar type feet. It's just a little bit bigger around, but I'm not sure about the height, so that might change the length of the legs if you decided to use that. As for the PVC, it's just regular 2-inch Schedule 40 PVC that you can get at your local big box store. At the bottom of the feet, what I have down here is just a coupler that will couple 2 lengths of pipe together in between them, and that allows it to sit down on top of that foot. And then if you go up to the top, there's just a cap for this particular size of pipe, 2-inch cap, and the only one that I could find was in black and not white, but that's all that is. And then what holds that on is just some hardware, which I'll show you in pictures right here. As you can see, there's just a small bolt and a nut and some washers that hold it down through the top of the MDF. The bucket is just your run-of-the-mill 5-gallon Home Depot Homer bucket. And then on top of that is a Dustopper. This is actually the old original version of it. There is a new and improved model. I think it still looks very similar to this, but they are made to fit right on top of these Home Depot buckets, and it actually comes with these elbows, this short length of tube, and this elbow, so that you can connect everything between the shop vac and the Dustopper in exactly this configuration. And then, of course, the shop vac itself will come with a longer black hose that you can use on your intake to suck stuff in, and then here in a second I'll explain to you how you set that all up. And with this particular vacuum, with exactly enough clearance so that that bucket sits right on top of that handle, which you don't have to install that handle if you don't want, which would give you an extra couple of inches of space in there, but it's easier to get the lid off. It just gives you something to hold on to. But in any case, in this particular configuration with this vacuum, these pipes are exactly 33.5 inches long. All right, so the MDF top is literally just a 2-foot square piece of MDF that I cut the corners off to make it into an octagon shape. And And then what I did was I made some holes around here for the various accessories that come with the vacuum, including this one. And then I put a kind of a long hole here to use as a handhold so that I can drag it around, you know, with me throughout the shop wherever I need it to go. And then the bucket itself is sitting down into this hole, which is 11 1/4 inch in diameter, and that leaves it just big enough to allow for the bucket to fit in, and then the lip to sit on top so that it doesn't fall down through the hole. Pretty simple, and then I just painted it black. I mean, no, nothing crazy there. It's pretty simple to make. I just cut it square, probably on the table saw, and then used a jigsaw to cut out all of the circles, and, you know, sander to clean them up, and painted it black. That's about it. The legs. I don't remember what these are, so we're gonna have to measure them. They look like they are exactly 14.5 inches apart. They're 14.5 inches apart from each other. So you're going to have to determine, based on what vacuum you use, what the best placement is going to be for those. In this case, it was 14.5 inches away from each other. And then, you know, probably they're centered on the top. All right, again, so pretty simple. How this setup works is you have your shop vac, your 4 legs, your MDF top, your bucket, and your Dustopper. And the Dustopper, this is the hose that goes at the top of the Dustopper. It comes out on a 90 degree, comes down across the front and down into the front of your vacuum. That is the suction from the vacuum that comes from here, you know, and sucks out of there. Now, from there, that suction is translated to this hose, which is what you put your attachments on, whatever you're going to use, and suck stuff in. So that stuff comes in here through this port. It goes around the cyclone system that is made in here, and then the dust gets separated and falls into the bucket, where hopefully just air, you know, and, you know, it gets a little bit, some of the very, very fine stuff gets through there, and you do have to change the filters every once in a while. For me, it's usually 2 or 3 times a year, but if you don't have this cyclone system, you're going to be changing those filters every week or every couple of days, depending on how often you're using the vacuum, because they'll get clogged up, and those things are, you know, like $20 each, so you don't want to be doing that too often. So this saves you a lot of money by collecting all the dust inside that bucket as opposed to in your filter and inside your vacuum. Now, the biggest drawback to that is you need to keep an eye on this bucket and make sure that you empty it when it gets about 3/4 of the way full, because once it starts getting too full, it starts bypassing the bucket and setting everything down there, and then it, you know, kind of defeats the purpose of having this set up to begin with. All right, so what do you use this for? To be honest with you, for the first couple of years that I was doing woodworking, I used this for everything. This was my one-stop shop for dust collection. When I was using the table saw, at that time I had a small contractor type table saw with a 2.5 inch port. I would use it on that. I would use it on almost anything. Now, this is not going to work with something like a DeWalt 735 planer, or a large jointer, or even a bandsaw, something that's, or, you know, my saw stop, something that's got a 4-inch port on it, especially the planer, because the planer's got its own blower motor, and it just overwhelms it, it clogs it up, and it doesn't work very well. You actually need a real dust collection system for that, or, you know, something else. Like right now I have the bag set up until I get my dust collector set up, which that video will be coming soon. But in any case, you know, I use it for everything. So typically, if I'm cleaning off a surface, like my bench, or, you know, top of the tools, or, you know, whatever, if I'm trying to get into small spaces, I use this attachment that came with the vacuum. This gives you the most suction. However, if I'm trying to pick up a lot of stuff across the wide area, I tend to use this one. Honestly, I'm not even sure what this is used for. I think it's supposed to be used for like wet floors or something, but because it actually raises it up a little bit off the surface. But it works good for just getting a lot of material off of a bigger surface, so that you don't have that small opening. And then I also will use this with a couple of these tubes to put it together and clean the floor with it. So, and I still do that to this day. When I clean the floor, this is what I use to clean the floor or the top of the bench or whatever. Even after I have the dust collector, probably I'll continue to use this for those things. Now, the other thing that it's really good for, and when you're not using it, by the way, what I typically do is, you saw I had the hose over here. You can store it on one of your tools. You can store it on one of these tubes, whatever, and it just kind of sits there and it's out of the way. And again, you use this handle to roll it around and drag it around the shop with you. And then when it's moving, I just wrap the hose up around this little thing that is on the side of the vacuum here. If the one that you have doesn't have that, the other thing that I do, that I have done in the past, is I just throw it around one of these tubes and let it hang there in the back like that. Either way, it works fine. Keeps it out of the way while you're moving it. And then you plug it in and do what you have to do with it. The vacuum also came with this attachment. Actually, this is probably the one meant for wet floors because it's like a squeegee type thing on here. This also works when you have stuff on the floor, and I have used it for that. But because the openings are so small, bigger stuff tends to get clogged up in there and it doesn't work great. So it's only really helpful on fine sawdust. But, you know, I keep it here because occasionally I do use it for something. But the main thing that this is good for is the one thing that your big dedicated dust collection system typically is not good for. And that is doing dust collection on smaller tools like a sander, for example. You guys have seen this before in other videos, but I use this Rockler Click Connect system. And it comes, you know, with everything that you need, plus a bunch of adapters to hook up to different things. And I have adapters that will go to my sanders, to my Craig jig. I have like an electric planer. There's just various things that you can hook this up to that you can do small tool dust collection with that typically is, you know, not great to do with a large dust collection system. And all you do when you're going to use something like that is you just pull this hose out of the intake, find somewhere to store it or take it off or whatever, and then you just stick the hose from the Rockler hose in there, and then you do your sanding and do whatever you're going to do, and it does what it's going to do, and everybody is happy. All right, that all being said, I will say if you have no dust collection at all, this is an excellent system to start with. However, it's not perfect. It has one major flaw that most dust collectors have, even like the bigger systems that you buy from, you know, like Harbor Freight that comes with the bag and all that stuff, or even, you know, Rockler has something like that too, is those bags typically are over 30 to maybe 5 micron bags. And the biggest problem with that is, and the same problem with this, is that this will collect the big stuff. This will collect the majority of the dust that you make. The problem is that it's not going to collect all of the very fine dust that's in the sub 1 micron range that you typically need a HEPA filter for. And that is the stuff that's dangerous and that can, you know, cause medical issues and even kill you. So, you know, this thing will collect the dust for you. It will help keep things cleaner. It'll help keep dust off of surfaces. But it's not a do-all, end-all for dust collection. You still need to wear a mask when you're using this. The fine stuff is going to come out. It's going to go through. That's not a HEPA filter in there. I think they might sell some HEPA filters for those, and that would probably help. But if you look, you can see, I don't know if you can see it on camera, there's a lot of fine dust all around this thing, all on here. It's all over the place. And that's going to happen because there's nothing here to collect that fine dust, and it escapes and it comes out, and you need to protect yourself from it through various other measures. In my case, I still wear a dust mask. I have a hanging air filter system, and, you know, if I can, I'll open the doors or even take stuff outside to sand, but this will collect the dust, okay? Eventually, if you're going to be serious about woodworking, you're going to need something more robust. You're going to need a better dust collection system with HEPA filtration and all that to make sure that you stay safe while you're woodworking. In my case, I eventually graduated from this to having 3 of these, one in my miter station, one under the CNC, and then this one, so that I didn't have to drag this one around to do everything. I have some in specific places hooked up to specific things, but now that I have a large dust collector, I will be hopefully piping, or I haven't decided if I'm going to pipe or if I'm just going to take it to the tools or not. You guys will see that when I decide that, but that's going to be for almost everything except for these small tools like the sander. I'm going to keep this for when I do sanding and I'm using the Craig jig and stuff like that, because it just works better for those applications, and also for, you know, cleaning the floor and stuff. So, and my workstations and, you know, whatever. It's convenient. So this is not going to go away, although the ones that are underneath the other stations probably will. And that's all I can really say about this thing. I mean, again, it's a very simple project. It's easy to make. It's relatively inexpensive, especially when compared to buying a dedicated dust collection system. And then don't even get me started on all the piping and everything, because that costs as much, if not more, than the dust collector. But, you know, to get you started so that you have some dust collection to use in addition to the other measures that you're using, like your mask, your air filtration, whatever you're doing, it's an excellent system. It works really good. I highly recommend it, especially if you're just getting started. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the description below. I always get to them. I always answer all the questions. I plan to do, I know, yes, some of you guys have been watching my video for a while are going to groan when I say this. So I've been working on my website for a long time now, and I keep saying that, but I'm getting closer and closer and closer every time I say it. And I'm really close now, but eventually I will put plans for this on the website, probably for free for this thing, and they'll be available for you guys and whoever wants to download them from there, probably, again, I said for free. So look out for that when that happens. Again, I'll do another video to announce when the website's ready and everything that's on it and all that, because I'm currently also working on build plans for other things. You're going to see some videos coming up on how I built my benches and CNC enclosure and miter station and all that stuff, and plans for that will all end up on there. I'm also working on making the star templates for both the crosses and the flags, so look out for that. That's all coming in the near future. Sorry I've been out for a while. A lot of stuff going on in my personal and professional life that's kept me from making videos, but hopefully I'm back on track now, and I'll start, you know, if anything, making them more frequently. But in any case, that's going to wrap it up for this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hit the like and subscribe on your way out if you haven't already, so you can be notified when, you know, everything that I post comes out, if you are so inclined. Stay safe and happy woodworking. I will see you on the next one.